You shall take with you 7 each of every clean animal, a male and his female, 2 each of animals that are unclean, a male and his female, also 7 each of birds of the air, male and female, to keep the species alive on the face of all the earth. Genesis chapter 7, verses 2 through 3, exegesis. You shall take with you 7 each of every clean animal. Let's break this down. Notice 7 clean animals and 2 unclean animals. This is of great importance. We're going to break this thing down. So even before the law of Moses, before Yahweh gave to Moses on Mount Sinai the 10 commandments, the concept of clean and unclean was already known to Noah. This reveals that God's health distinctions were not merely ceremonial. So before Yahweh gave Moses the 10 commandments and the ceremonial 613 laws, we see that the health distinctions were not merely ceremonial. They were creation principles rooted in Yahweh's divine wisdom for human and environmental well-being, so that we could live out the utmost healthiest lifestyle possible. Genesis chapter 8 verses 20 elaborates on this. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal and of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. Not only were they for consumption, but they were for the offering of offerings. And only that was done for clean animals, not unclean animals. Noah was instructed to bring 7 of each clean animal because they served a dual purpose, for sacrifice and for sustenance. Worship to God required clean offerings. For sustenance, after the flood, mankind would be permitted to eat animals, and God ensured that there would be a greater number of the clean species preserved for consumption and reproduction. The earth had been flooded. There was less vegetation. Remember, Yahweh's command was that man would eat vegetation, but with the flood, now you have the transition from vegetation to animals, indicating why there were more clean animals as opposed to unclean animals. But what does Babylon tell us today? Pig, shrimp, unclean animals. Yahweh's whole intent was so that we could live the healthiest lifestyle possible, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So 2 each of animals that are unclean. Let's elaborate on this. Only 2 unclean of each species were preserved, just enough to maintain the species, not for human consumption. The clear ratio reflects God's intentional limitation. Man was not to consume that which was unclean or unhealthy. Notice in Leviticus chapter 11, verses 46 to 47. This is the law of the animals and the birds and every living creature that moves in the waters, and of every creature that creeps on the earth, to distinguish between the unclean and the clean, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten. This distinction was not ceremonial alone, but protective. God designed man's diet to promote health, to promote life. Also 7 each of birds of the air. So birds played a vital role as well. Clean birds were abundant because they would later be a part of both sacrificial system and the natural ecosystem. So the health message. From Eden onward, God's original diet was plant-based. In Genesis 1:29, God says, I have given you of every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you it shall be for food. Exodus chapter 15, verse 26. If you diligently heed the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his sight, I will put none of the diseases on you which I have brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. The Egyptians did not have this health message, unfortunately, which taught that we shouldn't eat shrimp, that we shouldn't eat pig, that we shouldn't eat unclean animals, which is why the Egyptians had these diseases. It wasn't like God was plaguing them. It was, as a man sows, so he reaps. When you eat certain foods that consume worms, consume parasites, consume fungi, consume antigens, consume bacteria, you also obtain all of that which you consume, because what you're consuming, that's what they consume. So that's why the Egyptians had these diseases. And so That's why Yahweh says, I will put none of these diseases on you which I have brought on the Egyptians. It wasn't necessarily Yahweh bringing this on the Egyptians. It was Yahweh allowing them to eat what they wanted to eat. And because of that, the diseases came. The health message is a spiritual truth, honoring God with our bodies as temples of his spirit. Know ye not that your body is the temple of the living God, and the spirit of Yahweh dwells in you? If any man defiles his body, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple you are. Eating according to his design preserves vitality, mental clarity, and spiritual sensitivity. One more time. Eating according to his design preserves vitality, mental clarity, and spiritual sensitivity. When we respect God's natural laws of health, we align our lives with his plan for wholeness. So, message of hope. We're going to close out with this. Even amid judgment, God showed mercy by providing not just preservation, but abundance of the clean, a symbol of purity, obedience, and life. The clean animals remind us that God always makes a way for holiness, worship, and health to continue even in times of crisis. We're going to close out with this text. 3 John chapter 1 verses 2. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. This was Genesis chapter 7 verses 2 through 3 exegesis.